from my family members telling me, hey, your movie's on channel 12, and I already know what they're talking about. I already know what movie they're talking about. Like, they always say your movie, and I just know. So that is why I chased my siblings around with a pencil, because I was pretending to be like the movie. This is why you don't let children watch horror movies. Shout out to my mom and dad. But yeah, I was chasing my siblings around with the pencil, and my brother had climbed on top of our fridge to hide from me. And my brother is 8 years older than me, but he was a very tiny kid. And when he was on top of the fridge, he looked down to see if I was down there, and he accidentally pushed open the freezer, and he fell and broke his toe. We actually had to take him to the emergency room, and I don't think I even got in trouble for that. I'm sorry if you guys can hear my dog snoring. If y'all hear that noise in the background, it's my dog. She's snoring. Sorry. So, not only did I chase my siblings around with a pencil, I liked to mess with people a lot. I loved to scare people whenever I was a kid, and it's crazy because to this day I still like scaring people. Even when I worked at JCPenney's the most, I would always scare my coworkers, and I would hide in the stock room and make noises and try to spook them. And I don't know why, I just liked scaring people, but I was just a really weird kid. But one thing that I did that was really bad, that I really did get punished doing, was one of my aunts, she used to live with us along with my cousins, and I should have asked my mom more information about this, because honestly I don't even remember like why this happened. But my aunt had a check that she needed to cash, and I don't even know like what kind of check it was, if it was like work related or what. But I remember going into the bathroom, using the restroom, and seeing her check on the counter right next to me. And I don't know why I did this, but I literally flushed her check down the toilet. And I got in so much trouble. I don't know why I did it. I literally don't. I remember doing this too, but I don't know why I flushed it. I just saw it and I just put it in the toilet, and I got in so much trouble. My mom made me stay in my room, mine and my sister's room, all day, and I was like probably at least 5 years old maybe. And I was so sad because I had never been punished like that before. Not like I was spanked, but I had to stay in the room all day first video someone will see, I don't know. But, so one time, this is back when my aunt was still living with us and everything, but I woke up early all the time. I was such an early bird as a kid, which I feel like all kids are though, honestly. But I was always the first kid to wake up, and So the teachers brought it to our attention and were like, who the heck is doing this? Like, this is so disgusting. But we didn't know, nobody was coming forward. Who the heck would come forward saying that, oh yeah, I did it, And I remember one time in the restroom, because after lunch, if you had to use a restroom, you would go to the restroom and your class would wait for you. And I remember someone was in the stall where the poop message was on, and they called some of the girls, were like, oh my gosh, and we all went in the stall and we saw, and it wasn't like a long message, like a story, it was just like, I don't know, whatever the person wanted to express of that day, I guess. And we were just so grossed out because it was literally poop, and like how do you do that? Like, you just stick your hand in the toilet and pull it out, or like, I have no idea how this person did this. I don't even care to know, but they were literally writing with it like it was a freaking pencil, and it was so disgusting. And I remember it got to the point, like, this was going on for a long time, and it got to the point where we had to have a whole meeting with all the third grade girls, and they made us all sit down in the hallway, and all the third grade teachers were so mad, and they were just saying, who is doing this? This is so disgusting. Why would anyone want to do this? The janitors are having to clean this disgusting mess. Like, whoever it is, if you know who's doing this, you need to come forward, because this is so gross, and the janitors should not have to clean up after that. And they were like, if this doesn't stop, we're gonna make all of y'all wear diapers. And I want to say that they ended up finding out who did it, but I don't remember who it was. At one point, I literally considered creating a group message of all the third grade girls that I still know, and asking them if they remember this and if they remember who it was, because I could have sworn it was my best friend's cousin. But she's like, I don't remember. She says she doesn't remember either. And her cousin don't really even talk either. But yeah, I mean, my best friends and I, we've known each other since elementary. So like, we brought it up one time and we were just like, dude, like, what the heck? Like, who would do something like that? It was so gross. And we like are not. They don't remember who it was. And I can't say 100% that they found out who was doing it, but I want to say that they did. I feel like they did find out, but I just don't know who it was. My camera shut off, but anyways, I don't remember the last thing I said, but yeah, it was so disgusting, and whoever did it, I hope that whatever they were going through, they got through, because I don't know any reason why you would ever want to do something like that. Another memory that I have from school was in 8th grade when we had a food fight, and it was so crazy because, food fights, you don't ever really think that there's something that actually, that it's something that actually happens, because I think it's so hard to get everyone involved. But it really did happen for my 8th grade class, and it was because it was our last year in middle school, and everyone kept on saying how they wanted to do something crazy, and I guess they just decided to do a darn food fight. And in 8th grade, I was a cheerleader, and so I remember that day we were wearing our uniforms, and so the whole 8th grade class would have lunch together, but, of course, everyone would come at different times, so some classes finished eating before others, and so one side of the cafeteria had already put up all of their trash and their food, and the other side of the cafeteria hadn't, because they were still eating, and we were waiting for our teachers to arrive to come pick us up. And I don't know if like we knew that it was going to be that day, but I just remember turning to my right and looking at the opposite side, and I remember seeing, like, I misbehaved. He would get in trouble all the time. He was literally standing on top of one of the tables that was clear, and he was just eating his burger and just watching everybody fight and throw food. And I remember even one of our guidance counselors was there. She was just watching the whole thing happen. Like, she didn't even try to stop it. And finally the administrations came, and they were so livid, and they were like just yelling at that side. And finally our teachers came, and we left and went back to class, and it was like the most talked about thing that happened that whole day. Everybody was talking about it, even the 7th graders. And I remember the 7th graders, like, we had beef with the 8th graders. Like, they had beef with the 8th graders. Like, you know, you just think you're better than the other class. And I remember the 7th graders tried to pull off a food fight, and it was a fail. And we're just like, like, they suck, you know. And I remember that day, like, 8th graders are walking around with food stains all over their clothes, like, so bad. And they were trying to, they said they had cameras in the cafeteria, and they're like, we're gonna look at who, if we see you throwing food on camera, like, you're getting a consequence. And I don't even know if that was true. I don't even know if that actually happened. But they did cancel our 8th grade pep rally, and I remember we were, the cheerleaders, we were so bummed because we had came out with a new cheer, and we were so excited for the 8th graders to see it because, you know, we knew them, we were in the same class, and they would always pump us up, and like they would get like really into it with us. Like, you're supposed to, like, cheerleaders, you know, are supposed to pump up the audience, like, they contribute back, you know, it's like fun. And the 7th graders were so boring, so we only got to show the 7th graders. But I remember, I think it was my cousin's class, or there was one 8th grade class that got to see the pep rally, and I don't think it was anything related to the food fight incident. I think that they just happened to be there, and they were still there during the 7th grade pep rally, so they got to see it, and they're like, wow, like cheering us on. It was really fun. But yeah, we were so bummed that our 8th grade pep rally got canceled, but it was really, really fun. And I don't know many people who can say that they got to experience a food fight, even though I didn't get to throw anything, which probably was very wise because, like I said, I was a cheerleader. But still, it was really crazy to see my cousin got to be in it. But that school was so bad. I've said it before, but I've worked at a school before, and that was the school that I worked at. It was the school that I went to middle school at. I worked there as well a few years ago. I worked there for 3 years as a teacher's aide, and it was really, really, it was rough. It was a rough school, but it was really fun. But I remember my 6th grade year there because it wasn't until my 8th grade year that they started the 5th graders. They separated the 5th graders and the 6th graders. So at first it was kindergarten through 5th grade and 6th grade through 8th grade. But whenever I became an 8th grader, so in 2007 to 2008, in that school year, they decided to separate the 5th graders from the rest of the elementary school grades and the 6th graders from the rest of the middle school grades, and they decided to put the 5th graders and 6th graders together. And so I don't know what, like, if they're considered middle school, and then 7th and 8th graders are considered intermediate now, because I'm pretty sure whenever I was in middle school, intermediate and middle school was like the same thing. But anyway, so when I became an 8th grader, that was whenever it was only 7th and 8th graders at our school. But when I became when I was in 5th grade, I was still in elementary school with the other grade levels below me. And then when I went to 6th grade, I still went to that middle school because we were still with the 7th and 8th graders. That makes sense. But in 6th grade, the that school was so bad, and I remember there were so many fights all the time. It got so bad that they had to separate the students whenever it was time to dismiss to go home. And so you have like your bus riders, your car riders, and your walkers, and they would have to go on the intercom and say, okay, all the bus riders are able to be dismissed. And so you would leave and you'd have to go to the cafeteria, and I was a bus rider, and they would have your bus number on each table, and you would have to go find your bus number and sit there and wait until your bus arrived. When your bus arrived, you were escorted out of the school onto the bus. And it was like that for a long time because it was just so crazy. I mean, there were so many fights all the time. Like, teachers were watching us like hawks as we would go through passing periods because it was just constant fights all the time. And I also rode the worst bus route in the entire school. It was so bad that we had to have freaking assigned seats on a bus. And I remember we would, like, the bus driver would have to turn around every time she would leave the school. She would have to turn right back around and go back to the school because we were being so bad, and I was very quiet, so it wasn't me, but it was the other kids, and the other kids were just so bad. They would never listen. They were so rowdy. And I remember one time when we went back, we had to go back to the school. She got off the bus driver got off, and she went to go call the administration. And when she left us, like, half the bus got off and they were running around the faculty parking lot just playing. And when the administration came out, they were so mad. They were like, get back on the bus. And I remember we were like, I stayed on the bus and we were just laughing because it was like crazy. And I remember like some kids were hiding behind the cars because they were gonna get in trouble, and it was so bad. And I remember they said that no bus driver wanted to take our route. They're like, y'all are so bad that nobody wants to take y'all's route. And I remember they were saying, if y'all can't get y'all's act together, y'all are gonna ride the short bus. Like I don't know why they threatened us with that, but yeah. And so like that was in 6th grade, and even in 8th grade, it never changed. Every Friday, y'all, there were fights all the time, and it was like we were so used to it. And I remember one day I was walking to the bus, and I was texting on my pink Razor. You know, that was my first cell phone. I was in 8th grade, and it was the first time I got my cell phone, and I had a pink Razor, and I was texting, and I remember seeing people running past me like crazy. And in my head, I was thinking, oh, there's probably a fight. Let me just send this text, and I'm gonna go look. And as soon as I was done, I looked, and sure enough, there were two girls like just swinging at each other, and everybody was like surrounding them, going crazy. And I just walked over there to look, and you know, we're kids, so like even now as adults, like people still watch fight videos and stuff. And it was just so crazy. Like that school was horrible. And when I worked there, there weren't any fights. I only remember there being one fight, and that was it. But yeah, it was really bad whenever I was there. They said that when we left us 8th graders, when we moved on to high school, that the school wasn't as bad anymore. So I think it was mostly our class. Or maybe not, because the other classes, they were pretty bad too, like when I was in 6th grade. But yeah, our bus route was so awful, and there were times when I participated too. I was a little evil, and I would throw paper balls were so scared of him. And I remember we would stop, one of our bus stops was near a 5th and 6th grade school, and those kids were crazy too. They were wild, and every time we stopped at that bus stop, there were kids leaving. I guess they were like walking home, and they would come up to our bus and they would start banging on it, and they would bang on the windows. The kids inside the bus, they would bang on the windows back, and sometimes they would open the windows and like they would be like arguing, like yelling at each other. It was just so ridiculous. Like, my best friend and I, we talk about that bus stop, and we talk about high school too, because oh my gosh, like, we experienced some crazy stuff together growing up. But we were kids, you know, like teenager stuff. But yeah, that bus route was pretty insane. And I remember these boys, they were 7th graders, but my best friend was really good friends with them, and they were really horrible. And I remember one boy, like, the bus driver would pull into our neighborhood, and we had 2 stops on one side of the neighborhood. And the first stop, she would stop, open the door, and this kid, he would always sit in the front of the bus to do this exact thing. He would stand in the middle of the aisle, and he'd be like, anybody need to get off? Anybody need to get off? And it's like the majority of the bus needed to get off, and they'd be like, come on, man, like, move, get out the way. And he would block them, and he'd be like, anybody, and the bus driver would like close the door, and she would drive off, and the kids would be like, man, what the heck? Like, they would get so mad because they would have to walk so many blocks back. But he would do that all the time. It was so bad. I don't know why the bus driver never like did anything, but I don't know if she even noticed. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. That bus route was insane, from like 6th grade to 8th grade. The last story I'm gonna share is how I busted my chin open and had to go to the emergency room. So basically, I'm sure so many of you have probably done this. Your kids probably have done this too. I've seen my nieces do this as well. But whenever I was a kid, I would climb on top of the kitchen counters so I could get like a bowl or something, or a cup, anything I needed, you know, because I couldn't reach. One time I jumped onto the counters to get whatever I needed, and whenever I was jumping down, I like landed my chin right on top of the counter, and I busted my chin open, and I was bleeding so heavily, and I was screaming. And this was back when we lived in those apartments that I had told you about earlier, and my mom, I remember she was screaming, my baby, and my dad and my brother got me, and like, I had like my chin was busted open, and they had to take me to the emergency room. And I had a kitchen towel. I remember I had a kitchen towel under my chin. It was like soaked with blood as I waited, and I remember they had to stitch me up. I think I got 6 stitches, and I remember it didn't hurt, but it hurt whenever he was cleaning it with water. That hurt, but everything else, it didn't hurt. And I remember like my aunt, she ended up taking my stitches off for me because it was time for me to take them off, and I don't know why my parents didn't take me back to the doctor to take them off, but my aunt was a nurse, and so she took them off for me, and now I have a scar on my chin, and you can feel it as well whenever you like rub my chin. But I didn't learn my lesson, because I did it again, but this time, instead of hitting my chin, I scraped my stomach, the side of my stomach, because the counter, like the cabinet out on the bottom, it had a sharp edge, like a sharp corner, and so when I jumped down, it sliced my stomach, and I was bleeding on my stomach. And again, I was screaming. My mom was like, my baby. And my brother and my dad, they got me, and they took me to her room, and they saw my cut, and they were like kind of opening it a little bit, but it didn't know what kind of kid I was and what I did. But anyways, thank you so much for watching.